You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host Katrina, and with me is my husband Steven.
Hello.
We just finished episode 19 of Fullmetal Alchemist. A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, the action ramped right up.
Yes. Steven, what did you think?
So the boys are still reeling from their revelation from the last episode that human flesh needs to be used to create the Philosopher's Stone, a massive amount, as they said a lot. It wasn't just a body. It would be many bodies.
Yes.
So,
like a lot.
a massacre, if you will. Pretty much what we discussed last time, especially with the Istanbul War. A lot of it's starting to kind of come together for me a little bit about a lot of things. But then they throw in some new wrinkles. So, Armstrong wants to go check on the boys. Lieutenant Rod's like, nah, they're fine. Because I feel like they do need to know, like Armstrong and everybody need to know, but I guess I'm trying to understand where she's coming from too, considering Ed was in a bad spot. Because he was pretty much distraught by the whole thing and just kind of gave up. And he's just like, I don't care anymore. Because I could see where that would be a problem, because the one thing that you've been seeking and the way to do it is a horrific situation.
Yeah, literally goes against everything they stand for.
Yeah, I can see where that would just take you down and make you feel like, well, this is pointless. I mean, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. We can't do that. So what's the point? So, yeah, he's in a bad spot, and it's understandable. But on the flip side, I give a lot of props to Al for trying to still be positive. Like you said, he's got that. He's always trying to encourage. He's like, we could still try. We could do it. Of course, Ed doesn't see it that way still and snaps on Al for just trying to encourage, and he just wasn't having it. And I applaud, again, Roz for taking a different approach, because that's what she had to do. Al was trying it his usual way, and Roz came in with some tough love.
Yeah.
So, she pretty much almost chastises him at first and then turns it around, and she's like, look, you have to look at it from this point of view. Is this what you're going to do once you've been chasing this all this time, and now you're just going to give up?
Yeah, you hit one roadblock and you're just giving up on it.
Yeah, you're done. And I kind of found it funny they didn't actually do it like a flashback or anything like that, but I also felt like that those words that the old man told him about equivalent exchange with the arm and his leg pretty much in the war and all that really reflected back on that as well when Ed was thinking about it. Because they could have easily just cut back to a clip and just been like, remember? But they didn't. But I feel like that applies here, because it's no different than what that man told him. It was like, once you stop chasing your dream, what then?
Exactly.
And that's what he was doing. He stopped chasing it because of one little roadblock. So a lot of that came back around, I felt, in a nice way, if you remember it. And of course, this kind of reinvigorates him, and he thinks about it, and he's like, yeah, I can do this. We can do this. So instead of trying to figure out a way around that, they start to discuss other possibilities. What is another possibility? I personally don't have an answer to that at all. Because I was thinking about it. I was like, what could be equal to? It just doesn't sound like there's that. What are you going to sacrifice animals now? I mean,
it still wouldn't be equal.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. But as they had that note from Marco, Ed remembered something about it, and it was like a little personal side at the bottom saying, what was it? The truth behind the truth.
It was like the truth of all truths or something like that.
So almost like dig a little deeper. The genuine truth, I think, is what it was. The genuine truth behind the truth or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was, even though you think you found what the truth is, there's another truth. And you've got to dig a little deeper. So they're encouraged to do so. They do some digging, and I don't remember specifically how they pinpointed that prison.
Well, it wasn't so much the prison. They were looking for labs because Marco, he used to work at one of the labs doing, research for the Philosopher's Stone. So they got to thinking of, okay, well, what it takes or what it would possibly take to create a Philosopher's Stone, because obviously they know that the military is interested in it if they had, an alchemist literally researching it for years and then they take Marco away and hide him. Mm-hmm. But basically they were looking at all the different labs on the map, and then they located Lab 5, which was supposedly shut down due to structural problems. But because it was right next to a prison, that's what led Edward and Al to believe that that's the place of the new lab, because who's going to care if prisoners go missing? Like he said, write it off like they were put to death, and then you have endless supplies of guinea pigs. Right.
So that's a really fucked up way of looking at it, but it falls in line with everything that we've been told up to this point. So they want to go check it out. Roz is like, no, I don't think you ought to do that.
Literally says, this is the adult time.
Yeah, she that was the first time she said that to him, I got it. It felt like it was a proper thing to say to him in that moment, to kind of give him that nudge, like, oh, you just gonna act like a kid because the shit didn't work out for you?
Yeah.
But here I was just like, well, okay, now I don't really feel like you should have called him a child right here. I mean, he's proving he just wants to get this solved, and granted, her point was valid to keep them protected because Scar's still out there. So I get where she was coming from, but she didn't have to call him a kid.
I mean, that's true. And I also kind of look at it in the sense of she's not an alchemist.
Yeah.
She fights with normal weapons, like guns or knives. I can't remember what her weapon is, but she fights with normal weapons. And Ed and Al have alchemy on their side, on top of training for years with their teacher in regular hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
They are more than capable of taking care of themselves, as they have proved. Do they need backup sometimes? 100%. But as we've seen, so does Colonel Mustang, who is higher ranking than any of the other people right now.
Right, exactly. But in any case, they don't care. They still go. I guess, because I was honestly wondering, I said, so did Roz and the other guy, did they already go and they're just going to follow behind them? But no, they're still kind of waiting, I guess, or preparing to go. And
they're wanting to let Major Armstrong know what's happening before they leave, basically.
And Ed now is just like, we can't wait around for this shit. So they go ahead
sneak out. 100%.
Sneak out, head to the prison. And first thing they notice when they get there is they see booby traps. They see security, and there's like, guys, for an abandoned prison, that's a little much. So already it's suspect. And meanwhile, we got to see where Cheska was. Yeah. And she was pounding away in the archives or something, trying to help Hughes. And she seems worn out, but you'd think this was her bag. I thought this was her thing.
Yeah, but you have to imagine how many things she's probably had to have written
Oh, yeah, true. So
because that's her whole job, is remembering this crap and, transcribing it perfectly.
And they're going to break her brain, and they're going to make her not work properly anymore.
Give her really bad carpal tunnel.
But the boys sneak in, or at least Ed does, because obviously Al cannot squeeze through a vent. He seemed very distraught about this.
It's not my fault I'm big.
But Ed gets inside, and man, when he gets inside, first of all, he's grateful. I loved how they had him accepting his littleness now.
Yeah.
Everybody's giving him hell, and he's like, if I wasn't so small, I wouldn't be able to climb through this vent, damn it. And he just gets mad at himself for thinking it, but it's true. And then once he gets into the prison, it's like Indiana Jones, like booby traps galore. So they anticipated someone getting in, clearly. And, I mean, every booby trap imaginable comes down the gamut. The spiked floors, the arrows shooting out of the walls.
Yep, the big sword thingy coming down,
and
which all ends with...
the boulder.
Yes.
And again, what happens? He squeezes his little ass out of the way.
Literally just rolls to the side of the wall, and it's like perfect. And I love it because it's one of those, like, not only watching him run from the boulder is, funny, but when he squeezes out of the way, it like literally slow-mos it with the little arrow pointing like dink, dink, dink.
It's like, check this out. See? You see that?
To be fair, he had room to spare.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. So he was in no danger.
No.
But anyway, he gets in and he's free and clear of the booby traps. Now, also, meanwhile, as all this is going on, we get a little cutaway to the, I'm going to just call them homunculi now, discussing everything ongoing at the time, and the fact that, they found the prison and what should they do. So they're starting to become a little bit more interesting in what their game plan is, but I think I know, but now there's another wrinkle, and I know I'm not so sure. So I don't know. We'll see. But we also are introduced to two other characters who've apparently been eyeballing our boys as they've been trying to climb in. And they obviously, or at least one of them, comes into contact with Ed as he comes into a new room. And they face off, and we quickly learn that they are auto-male. Or, well, not auto-male. They're like Al.
Exactly. Just a soul tethered to a suit of armor.
So that means, and there were two of them, and they both went after our brothers. And so my immediate assumption of that would be that the soul in the armor would probably be a soul of one of these prisoners.
Yes.
So then whatever shit that they've done, then they've in turn flipped their souls around and put them into these suits of armor.
Matter of fact, one of them, you should recognize the voice because we have actually run across the character.
Oh, have we now?
Yes, but I won't tell you which one.
Okay. Well, the one number 48 sounded familiar. The Lunatic 66 sounded... I don't recall that one, or at least I nothing clicks in my brain. So I'm curious because if we've seen this person before, I'd have to think about it. But nobody's coming to mind, so I don't know. So we'll find out, I suppose. But they left us on the cliffhanger because the fights, I don't want to say that they're beginning, but few blows have been traded, and I guess the fight's going to just continue because that's where they always got to end shows, is right there when the action is really getting good.
Of course.
And then they'll start it and give us maybe like a minute-long action scene and be like, well, we're done. It's like, damn it, come on.
There was another point that you didn't point out. Ed is now going to be fighting with a handicap.
Ah, yes, I did want to talk about that. Winry apparently forgot a screw. So now Ed's arm is a little, I mean, it didn't pop loose, but it's looking like it could.
Yeah. So, something's not right with it because she forgot the screw.
Yeah. So I would, yeah. I mean, they would have pointed that out. It's going to come into play. So
yeah.
Just hopefully it.
I mean, we know nothing can happen to our boys.
Right.
Like, we still have several episodes. So nothing can happen to our boys. But that doesn't mean that these next few episodes aren't going to be kind of nail biters.
Okay. I mean, you were telling me that you kind of looked ahead. Of course, I mean, you've seen it, so
yes,
you should
I was
know.
trying to remember what order, because it has been quite some time since I've watched the series in full. And I was trying to remember what order they all fell into, like how the storyline played out. Because I did watch Brotherhood more recently. Like, not, it's still been a couple years, but it was the last one that I watched.
Right.
So I know that the next 7 episodes are just going to be, all uphill in the sense of how the action and the storyline is going to ramp up. There is a specific episode that I can't wait to get to because I feel like it is definitely a very deep episode. And I know that obviously this episode and the next episode go together. The one after that still, ties in with the events and everything like that. So it is still following this storyline and what's happening with with Laboratory 5. But yeah, it's definitely going to ramp up, and I'm excited to watch your emotions through it.
Well, remember, I don't get like super emotionally.
No. I'm not saying like so much getting emotional in that aspect. Like I do. The one episode is definitely an emotional one. I would say even more so than Nina. But it's just the storyline and where it's going is the emotional part of it. And then not only that, but the new questions that they make you wonder about and kind of plant seeds of doubt and stuff like that in your mind with everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how you feel about all those little things because they will be answered eventually, but it's just laying, those little seeds.
Okay. So, I mean, very much like I feel like they planted seeds here too in this episode with the new, I don't know what to call them. The new owls.
Oh, definitely don't call them owls because they are nothing like Alphonse.
I know, but I don't know what they are specifically.
I mean, technically guardians? They're like the guardians of the prison.
I guess that's what the guy did say.
Yeah, the new baddies.
We'll call them the prison guards. That's what they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they planted some seeds there with them, but like I said, I pretty much feel like I've got their number figured out just based on what we already know thus far, and the what's and the whys behind the laboratory. Again, I feel like I know details already just based on the way I've pieced it together, but there could be some details that I don't know and are going to be like, oh, okay.
And we also saw a new character that has not been introduced yet. I mean, I know who he is, but when Ed, got kind of fed up after the whole boulder thing and he used alchemy to kind of bust his way through, you saw a room that was lit up red with a giant transmutation circle that starts to crack with a man laying on the floor.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, and then I thought, well, maybe there was something about it that, I don't know. I thought maybe it related back to the prison guards, but then I didn't, but I wasn't sure. And then I forgot about it because it was like a little brief thing that they did, and then just that was it.
Yeah, kind of like just dangling him there. Ooh, new character.
So yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I had forgotten about it because it was just so quick the way they did it. I thought,
I mean,
Okay.
obviously he is going to come back into play.
Sure.
But
I would hope.
it's definitely, I mean, obviously he's in the prison. He is a prisoner. But it's who he is.
Gotcha.
That is one of the whole things.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead.
Hell yeah. Let's jump into episode 20. Steven, lead us out.
Go tell your friends to listen on their favorite podcasting platform. Wherever they listen to their podcasts, you can rate and review on those platforms as well. Help the show grow if you want to do that. And you can chuck in a buck and listen to episodes early at patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions or keep up with any and all things pencilpaperproductions.com/inspiredweeaboo.
All right, my little weebs. We will see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.